Hello everyone, welcome to this recitation where we're going to learn all about data loaders and examples of using data loaders. In this recitation, we are going to introduce the PyTorch data loader class. We are going to initialize the data loader object, learn about on-the-fly data loading, handling different sampling strategies, creating custom batch samplers, customizing data loading with different collect functions, and lastly, leveraging multiprocess data loading and pin memory. This diagram basically describes the interaction between the dataset class and the data loader class. As you learned in your dataset class, the dataset class is used to instantiate objects that define how each data is loaded. In this, we can be able to create different data objects depending on the data that you want to load into the data loader class. The data loader, on the other hand, handles how data is shuffled and handled into batches. When you have a dataset class, you're able to produce data that you feed into the data loader so that it can be assembled and loaded in records of batches and many more. So now that we know what PyTorch tensors are, let's start by creating a simple sample of training examples with 2 features each and a tensor containing their respective labels. So here we have 5 training examples and their respective labels, and the testing examples with its respective label. But we are assuming in your data, the data that will be given in the assignments, the test set will not have the labels because that's what you're predicting or classifying. So this, we will call it a simple dataset class, and we will have your features, which is the X values, and your labels. The get item will be able to give you a single item of training example and the labels as well. And in the data set object, you're able to create an object containing your training data set and your test data set. So as a reminder, the 3 components of the custom dataset class is the init constructor, the getItem method, and the length method, which has been described in your dataset video. Our main focus in this recitation is our data loader. And here, we get to set a seed for generating random numbers just so that you can be able to shuffle the training data. So here we choose whether to shuffle or not to shuffle the data, and I will leave it to you to research why we don't choose to shuffle the test data set. The number of workers, as I will describe later, help us to set the number of background processes. So here we can instantiate the training loader, where we can iterate over each and every training example and pass through the entire dataset class in one epoch. So as seen above, the training loader iterates over the whole training dataset, visiting each training examples just once. This is known as an epoch. So you can just generally say that one epoch is the one that is one complete pass of the entire training set through the algorithm. A batch is composed of multiple training examples. In our examples, we had two training examples in a single batch. Therefore, batch size is the number of training examples in one forward pass. The higher the batch size, the more memory you'll use to load all your training examples. And the number of iterations, as I had stated, is the number of passes that you have. So if you had 100 training examples and a batch size of 20, it will take you 5 iterations to complete one particular epoch. But here we are assuming that each epoch, each iteration has the same number of training examples. In our example here, we did not have that. In examples, we had 5 training examples, which is not divisible by 2. So when you have 2 batches, you will have the first one with 2 examples, two examples in the first and the second batch, and the last one will have one training examples. Having a substantially small batch in the last batch can disturb convergence during training. And to prevent this, we recommend to set the drop last to true, to drop the last batch in each epoch so that you can have a balance, the balanced examples in each batch. So in the shuffling, since we seeded the random generator using a random seed, if you iterate over the data set a second time, you will find that you're not getting the same order of data. This prevents the neural networks from getting caught in a repetitive cycle in training. So lastly, the number of workers here helps to parallelize the process of both training and loading the data. So it's very crucial for your entire pipeline to be efficient while both loading data and while training. When the number of workers is set to 0, the data loading will be done in the main process and not in separate worker process. It might not really be problematic, but it can lead to significant slowdown during model training, where we train networks in a GPU. Here, the model sits idle until the next batch is loaded. In our example, while training, you have to wait for the data to be loaded so that you can train and go for another epoch. But in the second, on the right panel, multiple workers are enabled, and the data loader can quickly queue up the next batch in the background as you wait for the training to end. So if you're working with small data sets, setting number of workers to 1 or larger may be unnecessary since the total training time takes only fractions of seconds. So it really depends on the number of data